a seamless transition.
And we're on.
We're
There
on.
you go. Hello.
Just
Hello,
like
everybody. That worked, presumably. Chris did a thing. We'll know if it worked another day. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and sons of the First Legion to that 6+++ show. I am your host, Tom. And I'm joined tonight, as ever, by my dear leader, Chris. How are you doing, Chris?
I am very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm actually really good. I had a good couple of days of work so far. Feeling very up and at 'em after a nice little rest. So yeah, I'm in a great space. I haven't done any hobbying except for the playing at the RTT with Aarron, which we'll chat about later. How about you? Anything new? Have you got any large commitments of hobbying that you need to undertake?
Oh, funny you should mention that, Tom, because recently I have not had to worry about painting for tournaments. And as we know, I've been putting a lot of effort into my AdMech.
Yeah.
Had a lot of practice games with the AdMech.
Yep.
Played in a tournament with the AdMech. Was in a really good place with the AdMech. And then at 11:45 on Sunday night, decided to change my list. And by list, I mean army faction. So I have committed to painting half a Yanari army this
Nice.
week.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't on Easter holidays. But
No.
so yeah, I have nearly finished 5. I started today, the slog. I've nearly finished 5 Banshees and 5 Scorpions, and I'll get that done after this show. And then tomorrow I get out the airbrush and crack on with all the bikes. I've got 6 Shroud Runners, 3 Shining Spears, 3 D Cannons, and a Farseer Skyrunner to go.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry for any role I may have had in making you at the very last minute change to a faction that you'd only half finished.
Yep.
But also, I reckon you'll enjoy it. I think you'll have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least it's an army you're well versed with. You know all the rules for.
Yeah, I'm definitely not spending my time reading my codex going, what's this power again? Oh, how many attacks? Wow, that's good.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a good time. A moment of discovery for you, which would be good fun.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just Chris here. We have a first-time guest. First time, first Legion, first in our hearts. It is Paul James. How are you doing, Paul James?
I am very well, Tom. How are you doing?
I am really good. Thank you for coming on. Very excited to
happy
have
to
you
be here.
For those that don't know Paul is one of our sort of stalwarts, one of our long-time players. He's been on the channel a whole bunch of times. He takes names at events a whole bunch of times. And he is, at the moment, at the very least, basically a Dark Angels main. That is his deal.
I mean, it's been that way for a while.
Been that way for a long time. So you're enjoying a good moment, aren't you, Paul? It's a good time to be a Dark
we're
Angels
sort
player.
of basking in the sun at the moment, so to speak.
Yeah, with your waxy wings, just waiting to see what happens. But obviously, outside of the meta, there's also the Lion come back. That's obviously very exciting. Are you excited for that model?
I think he looks amazing. I can't wait
Yeah.
to get it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I can do it justice with my painting.
I think so.
I'm just really excited just to get hold of him. The only downside is he would come out at 10 o'clock when I'll be deep into round 1 at a tournament. But hopefully, my opponent will understand when I suddenly stop to go on.
I think you've got to prioritise
see
it.
what
Yeah,
happens.
You'd have won by then anyway. So.
Yeah.
See how the parents go yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Vic, I need to beat you really quickly, mate.
Yeah. Oh man, very good. Yeah, sweet. Well, also less exciting and new, but nonetheless also here is Aarron Wilson. How are you doing, Aarron?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Tom. Good
Thanks.
to see Paul out in the wild and not in his natural habitat of a tournament.
Completely agree.
Or under the desk. Just
Yeah, I
hiding.
completely agree. Aarron, I think I was hungover for 2 days after Saturday night. I was in a
Really?
yeah. I'm a lightweight, as you know. I couldn't handle it. I was absolutely ruined. I was a shivering wreck, but it was a very fun time celebrating our day out at the tournament in the wild surrounds of Leighton Buzzard. Very, very enjoyable. Have you got anything new on the go hobby wise? Anything exciting?
No, I'm just finishing off the basing on some Storm Boys before I probably try and custom build a Orc truck out of a scrapper launcher.
Nice. Yeah, very nice. Because we'll get into it a bit later, but obviously you're taking the Orcs to London, aren't you? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good. Excellent. Right. Well, we've got a wild and diverse show for you tonight. All sorts of stuff's going to happen. We're really good at self-promotion, as you know, so we're going to do that in a moment with the Police Roundup. Going to briefly do a little event recap because Aarron and I went out to the Outriders RTT. Then we will preview what we're all taking to the London Open. Then Chris has got a segment on managing emotions and dealing with tilting when you're playing. I've created a mini game which is guess the infamous / unpopular 9th edition unit.
Terminators.
No, I knew you were coming on. I was like, I'm not going to put any Dark Angels stuff in it. I'm going to be very well behaved. Going to be very well behaved. I've been very good. And then we'll do some listener questions, and then you can all go home. Well, actually, you can continue to be at home, because most of you probably already are at home. But if any of you have gone out to watch this somewhere, then you can go home. Great. Without further ado, we're really good at self-promotion. Excellent at self-promotion. And Chris is going to demonstrate why now with the Police Roundup. Off you go, Chris.
So we did some videos, and they have been watched sometimes.
Sweet.
The end. No, so we've got we've had Aarron and Davey doing what they do best, talking about Tau and the mighty Tyranids, and then we've got 2 brand new shows which dropped today. So Ed, may he rest in peace, is doing a new. We say that because he was supposed to be on the show, but
Yeah, bless Ed. Ed is trapped in the warp. He was
not
somehow
actually
in the room with us, but was unable to manifest in physical form.
Yeah.
He could only text in the chat box like some sort of residual AI. He was all very iRobot, but he was unable to break through and achieve anything that would work for the show, so we had to banish him.
Yeah. But he started a new series called The Best Army You Shouldn't Buy.
Yes.
This is our first foray into the world of clickbait. And he is basically going to be thinking about some really good armies that would be a complete waste of money. And he starts with looking at basically slow Harlequins, which is a Black Templar Impulsor Rush list. And he goes into details about it. It's a sort of list that I think you could probably have a lot of fun with on like TTS and that sort of thing.
100%. Yeah.
But obviously 7 Impulsors will be illegal in 10th edition, so don't go and buy this list. But it is a very interesting and informative video.
Yeah, very much so.
And then we've also got another podcast, which is the undertaking of Lewis and Tom for episode 1. And it's called The Rest is Warhammer, because apparently there's some famous podcast called The Rest is Politics and The Rest is History.
Yes.
So they've ripped that off in true style. So episode 1 begins looking at the making of a Space Marine. I actually listened to it whilst painting today, and I must say it was a very enjoyable listen. It was really well done by the guys. So I'd highly recommend that, and that'll be coming out every so often. Who knows? And then, in terms of what's to come, we've got a couple of state of plays. Mr. Stephen Box was interviewed by Tom to talk about World Eaters.
Yes, he was.
Nice.
And then you spoke to, I don't know who, about Sisters of Battle. So, if you're a Sisters of Battle fan, Paint Celestine will be happy. And if you are a World Eaters fan, those will be out in the next week or so. And
Yeah,
then
we've got a few in the pipeline.
finally today, Dave with his Grey Knights took on Lee with his Emperor's Children, and that'll be a bite-sized bat rep, which will be out at some point soon.
Absolutely.
And that's the Police Roundup.
Yeah, a lot of ground
Exciting
covered.
stuff.
Yeah, loads coming out. Let's say big shout out for Lewis with The Rest is Warhammer, because that's obviously his first go at hosting. And we recorded that on Sunday, as I say, I'd been out very late celebrating my Warhammers the night before, and I was a shell of a man, but we had a really, really fun time recording that, and it was a very good episode. And we got, if you want to find out what legion we reckon Macaulay Culkin would be in, you're going to have to go and watch that. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff about how Space Marines get made. And in the future, we're going to be doing the Tyrannic Wars, because we're going to look at sort of Marines versus Tyranids. Obviously, that's about to be the theme of the 10th edition release, so we thought really good time to dive into all those stories and look at my personal favourite Hive fleet, Behemoth, and their valiant battles against the Space Marines and all the horrible, baddies of the 41st millennium as well. So yeah, great. Okay, well, we're going to do a little event recap. We went to the Outriders RTT. This is a local RTT. Aarron and myself. 3 games. We played on the Saturday. In terms of Outriders itself, it's worth saying, great event, very good terrain, UKTC style. They've invested in getting the whole set sorted out. They were very good in terms of running it and TOing it. It's a lovely space there at War Games Workshop, and we really enjoyed the event. Had a very good time. Played some lovely people. We're going to briefly run through what I took in my games, and then we'll hand over to Aarron and his trajectory as well. So I took a sort of good and sort of silly Craftworld's Eldar list, which is leaning on some of the tools that. Oh yeah, sorry, Davey, you were also there. And Davey,
Was he?
Davey was also there. Yeah, he was. I don't know. Did you see him? I didn't see him.
I don't remember seeing him.
I'm sorry, Davey. I completely forgot. That's what happens if you go home early on the night out. That's what happens, right?
He was like below table 3, right? So.
So yeah, quite fun. A Siani list. It borrows some of the ideas from what Vic VJ has been doing with Craftworlds in recent times. There's some D cannons, a Wraith Seer. There's a Night Spinner, and it's got some sort of mortal wound dimensions to it, and it uses the ignore cover trait. So it's got various tricks like that. But into that, I got very excited, and essentially the story is that as I was tidying my office the other day, I was finally tidying it up and organising it. And just in the corner, down by my paint desk, just tucked away in it, on the ground, upside down, was Morgan Ra, who I must have built a long time ago, and who had then fallen and got lost in the weeds. And I was like, I have to paint this model because it's a lovely model, and I really want to run it. So I was like, I'll put Morgan Ra in, I'll put Baharoth in, put Jane's R in, just take 3 Phoenix Lords and have a good time with phase-capped units. And I had some warp spiders, some striking scorpions, some banshees, various other things as well. In terms of how the list played, it was great. It was really fun. It can score quite well. It can put armies away. It's active in all the phases. I really enjoyed it. I went straight through a Knights player who was there to win best army with his beautifully converted 5 big Knights, and obviously they didn't really function into an Eldar army. I just killed 1, then killed 2, then killed the other 2. And it's like, okay, well, that was very nice, thank you. And then I played Ben Piddington's Votan. And I played Ben Piddington once before. He actually beat me the last time at another Outriders event with his Chaos Knights. And we had a really interesting game because I think he knew that if he just let me do me, I was going to be able to get round him and overwhelm him. So he rushed me very hard, and he pushed both land fortresses right in my face straight away, turn 1, killed some things. And I was just about able, with like my entire army's output, to drop 1 land fortress a turn in the first couple of turns and then push through the army. So it was an interesting game, and I managed to get away and win that one in the end, but Ben played it very well. I don't think it's easy to play Votan right now. And then in my final game, I played Stephen, who was running a very sexy Dark Angels list. He had some Talon Masters, he had lots of Terminators, and he had the Apothecary and the Champ and various other sporting things. And I can't remember if he had Land Speeders or not. It was very much that kind of Dark Angels build anyway, more Terminator heavy than anything else. And we played on Recover the Relics, which I think was lucky for me because it meant I could sit a long way back, far away from him, and just pick up my 8s on my primary, which can be a real nightmare for Eldar. Morgan Ra was just holding a flank because Morgan Ra just likes to hold objectives on his own. That's what I do with him. It's outrageous. I'll just be like,
just sits there doing nothing.
I'll put him there because he's the only Eldar thing that isn't just going to immediately die if you shoot him, so he can hold an objective on his Todd. And in this game, I think I got doubly lucky because what happened was I went first, and in my turn 1, I just didn't do anything. I just bounced off him. Like I didn't hurt any Terminators. I barely did anything. I killed 1 Terminator, I think, with all my sort of preliminary efforts. And at that point, I think Stephen just looked at it and went, I don't really need to do anything then, and just sort of stayed where he was. When he probably on the pool, no, you just run at him, don't you? You just chuck it all in. You've got to go and shut me down and stop me doing stuff. But he didn't do that. He was a little bit passive, and he was just picking up his kills for Codex Warfare with his Talon Masters, plinking things I was putting in his deployment zone, and seemed relatively happy with that. But he'd taken over as a moment, which meant he did eventually have to start putting stuff in the middle, and then. In 2-3, I ramped it up and was able to actually just start clearing one of the sides and killing through the Terminators quite quickly. He also had Stubborn Defiance, which I couldn't really do anything about because he locked it down with lots of bodies and had the -1 damage and all that stuff. I was like, well, I'm not getting through that. But so that was a bit of a scoring concern. But yeah, started clearing a hole, at which point he started realising he had to get going. He hadn't got enough kills on Codex because I'd basically hidden, and everything I was doing was like sniping, running back, firing, fading, shooting stuff from out of line of sight. So I was chipping away and he wasn't getting kills back in return. So he wasn't doing well on the mission primary. and he wasn't doing well on Codex, which meant that he then got very aggressive with his Talon Masters, and they went in, they killed some stuff, but then I killed both of them, and then Codex is even worse because now he hasn't got his Codex Warfare killing units. But it ends. I realised in sort of 3-4, I have to go and make a massive Barney over his home objectives because I need to stop him trying to get a hold more at the end. So I need to basically really put him in a position where he's fighting to just hold on to the objectives he's already got, and isn't able to push up and get a hold more. And so with a combination of Farseer and Phoenix Lords and various other nonsense running in and sort of holding up objectives, I just about managed to do that. And just about outscore him. I think there was about 7 or so points in it. So really interesting game. I think Stephen was comparatively inexperienced into Eldar, and I think I still think that's a matchup that a good Dark Angels player that knows what Eldar are going to do is in a very strong position, because I think if he just rolled down one flank with everything early doors, I just don't think I've got enough output to kill through it. But really fun nonetheless. So finish.
The downside of Stubborn Defiance, though, isn't it? You instinctively put a lot of units stuck on one objective, and then you just stuck there with 300 odd points.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Not doing much.
I completely agree. I don't think it's the pick for Dark Angels at this moment in time. I think it's too cautious. You know, if you're in a strong position, you don't need a cautious secondary D. You can go and make things happen. And I'm sure he'd have scored well with banners, or he could. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, either way, yeah, he definitely was a bit too tentative and let me play in the game a bit too much, and I was able to sort of grind out a win in the end. D cannons do eventually go off if you fire them for 5 turns, and they're going to roll some 4s at some point. Someone is going to die. Like, so yeah, no, I was very chuffed with that, and it was 3 wins, and I was waiting around to see whether any other handsome people at the event had managed to score enough points to place high. Aarron, how did your run of games go?
Yeah, very good. I luckily avoided the one sort of unpleasant player at the event. This guy called Davey. But no, yeah, it was like you said, it was a great run event, and like the setup from the time I went before was really, really nice with investment in UKTC, etc. But I had someone that I think a couple of people on the team had played before first round, which was Sam Bodger with his Grey Knights.
Yes, he's a lovely guy. I love Sam.
Yeah, very, very nice man, very lovely painted army, and he got first turn, and I thought this was quite big, so I'd chosen to keep so I took Orcs, sorry, and kept my Kjorrigs on the table, and sort of had to put them on the line. I was like, I expect to lose one of them, just because of the amount of output that he's got with the 4 Dread Knights, and he took the one out on my left flank, and then Sam was umming and ahhing for quite a while whether to sacrifice a unit of Inceptors to move block my other Kjorrig and my truck, and chose not to, and then sort of just moved his Rhino up a bit too far, and then with I called a turn 1-1 with the advance and charge off of the Kjorrig and the Storm Boys, the truck boys as well. It allowed me to launch into his deployment zone turn 1 effectively, wrap his Rhino, so he had to use emergency disembark to get out, like lost 5 getting out, out of 10. So and just the way that it allowed me to push up there and then deny the primary for most of the game essentially is what won it for me. If he put the move block there, very, very different game. Ended up winning it 90-70.
Nice. Nice.
But then it's the normal thing with Orcs. They start disintegrating suddenly. Then turn 4 and 5.
Oh yeah.
Your opponent's score really starts to accelerate, but just haven't denied enough for the first part of it to stop it. I then got paired into Ben Dards. Yeah, Ben Dards, and his very, very cool Demon Monster Mush army.
You just beat Davey,
so
right?
there was.
Yes, he did beat Davey.
Yes, he had just beaten Davey. Yes. Yeah, he said how unpleasant a game it was.
Yeah. We apologise.
So the guy just kept doing this dodgy Australian accent the whole way through the game. He wouldn't stop.
Wearing a vest. And sunglasses inside.
Yeah.
But no, very, very, very cool army. If you're ever at an event that Ben's at, go and have a look at it as well. Like he's his great unclean one is a converted Arachnarok spider that's basically flipped upside down, so it's back to front. It looks really, really cool.
Yeah.
Very well put together. He had the had Be'lakor, he had the Woundcap Bloodthirster. He also had the special character Slanesh Great Demons.
Yes, I don't know what it's called, but it's
Shalaxi.
yeah, it's cool.
Shalaxi.
Is it that?
No, it's not
So-
Shalaxi
yeah.
Hellbent. It's like the Forge World one.
Oh.
It's some other thing
Yes.
like Zarin something. I don't know the name, but
That's why it's
Aarron.
different, yeah.
Aarron.
Yeah.
Call her Aarron.
Aarron.
Yeah, like that's converted up from like a Cygor giant. Like it's all very beautifully done. But yeah, again, went into that one and just full of head pressure. Ben went first and sort of creeped out a bit, which then allowed me to go straight into his great and clean one, which was on the table. I took that off the board with some Storm Boys and Knobs, and then he'd hidden the hidden the Be'lakor behind the big ruin.
Yeah.
And that came out to play. Obviously, warp locust everyone in. So then the Celestial Gradient was there and the Bloodthirster, but then the Be'lakor went into my Squigglessaw boss, and through his Invun, which he doesn't get, so he doesn't get the Invun, but through Be'lakor fluffing and then the 5-up Feel No Pain from the B-side mantle, he tanked a lot of damage and wounds and stayed alive on one wound. So 'cause I was like, oh, I'll use Fight on Death on him was my original thought. But then he absolutely slapped Be'lakor back and left him on 4 wounds.
Oh my god, no one does that.
And yeah, in the following turn,
that's
Be'lakor
crazy.
then killed my guy, and I killed him in response with Fight on Death. So it sort of turned it quite a bit. But then flipping the other way, I charged in with 2 units into the special character Slaneshi one and chose the wrong unit to go first and left it on 1 wound. It then obliterated the other unit that went in, gained back 6, and over the course of the game, I think it regained 20 wounds. So it's good fun playing the Monster Mash, lots of flying around, but again, it's just knew he was going to score very well on on secondary, so just denied the primary again and took that one down 91-80.
Amazing. Yeah, really good.
And then, yeah, so they've scored very well for me. I've enjoyed using them. And then in the final game, I had your previous opponent, Ben Piddington.
Ben Piddington, yep.
His Votam. Yeah. And Ben was concerned about me getting in his face, like right from the off. So actually deployed right
game
back
or-
of the
Paranoia.
uh,
Yeah, Aaron was like,
Just
if you don't let
imposing
me
me
get a
leaning
podium,
over
I'm
the
going to
table.
hit you.
Squared off against him.
That sounds just like Aaron, yeah.
But obviously, look, it's like you say, it's not great to play Votan at the moment. It's very difficult, and starting him on the back of the board. And I think then, I think the slight mistake that Ben then made was he'd made the choice to start him on the back of the board, but then also chose banners. So it just allowed me the turns. It's like I didn't charge into him turn 1. All I did was just move up all the Storm Boys and just stage them in the other ruins, and then just had my way in turn 2. And just because he held back off of being on any primary, etc. himself, just allowed me to totally swamp his primary for the whole game. Even his secondaries, he only got the kill secondaries. I think he managed to teleport his high card at the end of the game to squeeze 5 out of Lay Claim.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it went very well for me, and I managed to take Ben down 96-53.
Yeah, very, very big win. Yeah, I think it's just
Which
so...
meant I ended on 277 points, Tom.
That's quite a lot of points.
77, you say? That is a lot of points. That's
That is a
substantial
lot of
amount
points.
And it was also the number of points that I had scored. So we had scored the same number of points, Aaron and I.
Conspiracy, cool.
Yeah, and then in terms of the actual podium places, we've both gone 3-0, so I think we were the only 2 undefeateds at this event, because Stephen took 3rd place. And Aaron had scored a greater score differential because he'd shut down his opponents really well and denied primary really well and played the game the way Orcs are supposed to play and absolutely smashed it. And so Aaron took 1st place and I took 2nd. Hey, clapping! Well done, Aaron. You must be very chuffed with that result.
Yeah, I'm very chuffed. I'm chuffed with how I played, chuffed with the results, chuffed with the event overall, and the opponents. Every game was a good game, fun,
Yeah.
hard game, etc. And it was really well run event.
Yeah, I think they're a lovely crowd at Outriders, and I was really happy with second as well. And prize support for us was really, really good. Like, it's amazingly generous actually. Like, I don't think I've had as good prize support there as before, because we got these. This is the best bit. Look, I got a silver bar.
That is awesome.
With Outriders on. That's freaking awesome. There's Aaron's gold bar.
Oh yes.
Which I'm told is more valuable. But then we got like store credit basically, which is flexible, which meant I was able to get very carried away and get the avatar of
Such a cool model.
Kane, baby.
Such a cool model.
And
Gaz.
Gazgul. And yes, before anyone else, yes, the avatar's more expensive. I did spend a little bit of money on top to make sure I got an avatar. But it was the cheapest avatar one could ever have bought, so I was very happy with that. Great. Right, so that takes us through to thinking about London Open. That's what we've got coming up. Obviously, you know, RTTs are all well and good, but we also love a big super major and we love getting out to big events. A whole bunch of us are going down to London this weekend, coming to play in the London Open. So, given, Paul, that you've had to mostly listen to us all Aarron so far, haven't really got to talk much
I
about
could listen to your beautiful voice all day, mate. That's not worries.
Oh, you can come back again. You're welcome all the time. You know, that's all we want. We just want people to just boost my ego.
Bow down to Tom.
Constantly. That's
Broke
it,
your
that's it.
ego.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why we do this. So good.
Literally, yeah.
But Paul, if you would tell us what you're taking to the London Open, if you want to unpack a little bit about some of the thoughts and tech and choices in the list, that'd be really interesting to hear as well.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously taking Dark Angels. It's
Yes!
literally the only army I play. And because I am sort of like an innovator, I like to be unique with the way I play the armies and such. I thought, you know what we need? Terminators.
Yes.
So I started off, I thought, we'll put 10 Deathwing Terminators in, give them all Thunderhammer Storm Shields, 3 Cyclone Missile Launchers, and I was like, let's put in 10 more. So now we're up to 20.
Yeah.
And I thought, this doesn't feel like enough, so we put in 10 more. And then that still didn't quite feel the itch, you know. I still didn't think that was... So we put another 10 in. These 10 only have Storm Bolts and Chain Fists, but also 2 free Cyclone Missile Launchers. And then I've got 2 little command squads that are just running around. They're action monkeys.
But they're also Terminators.
They're also Terminators.
That's 44 Terminators so far.
Then I've got a Deathwing Ancient who's also in Terminator armor.
45.
We're up to 45. So that's all the Terminators.
45 is surely enough.
45.
It's a good round number, I thought.
I think so, definitely.
So basically it boils down to I've got Ezekiel taking the usual powers, Mind Worm, Righteous Repugnance, Engulfing Fear. So you can take away Obsec, give Fight Last, and do the reroll hits and wounds on one of my units.
Yeah, he's a lovely little troubleshooting unit, isn't he, Ezekiel?
Yeah, so
obviously
into other melee armies, he fixes quite a lot of problems that you can run into. He's also good into the mirror matchup, so if other people don't have the Ezekiel, just because obviously we're both rolling on 4s, if you can re-roll yours, statistically, hopefully, you should be able to roll more than they do.
25% more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got the Interrogator Chaplain, Jump Pack, Free Thunderhammer. He's rocking Litany of Faith for Mortal Wound Protection. Cantle of Hate for the Ever So Lovely, +2 charge, +3 Piling, +3 Consolidate, which is sort of like the spicy sauce of the list. He's Master of Sanctity, usual thing. Then obviously Deathwing Ancient, Thunderhammer Storm Shield. He's got the Pennant of Remembrance, so pick a unit, make a -1 damage. Steadfast Example, so we can make all of our whole army, which is Obsec, because why wouldn't it be? Now double Obsec, so they'll count as 2 models. Got the Apothecary on bike, Mr. NHS. Can't leave home without him.
Oh, nice.
Apothecary, Selfless Healer.
NHS is a great name for him. I like that.
Just runs around his little ambulance.
All the other Terminators just clap as he gets them back up and turns them back out.
Stand outside and clap.
Hang in their pots and pans. Like, woo!
Obviously, Selfless Healer, so he can res for free. And he's got the Reliquary of Repentant, so when he's within 3 inches, 5 up Invuns is the maximum you can take against anything.
Oh yeah, that thing is just delightful.
So again, in the mirror matchup, if I can get my Chain Fist Terminators into battle with their Terminators, with the Apothecary nearby, they're saving on 5s rather than 4s, which is a hell of a difference. Got Ravenwing Champion, upgraded. champion with Blade of Triumph. He's sort of mostly there just to be as a throwaway unit. He's an easy behind enemy lines. He can also be a bit of a need to go in and kill small squads or character hunting. Yeah, and that's pretty much that is the meat and potatoes of the list. 45 Terminators and all the supporting characters you could ever want and love to have with it.
Yeah.
And
it's
the main
super strong.
And it's literally a case of I'm going to throw this army at you, and can you deal with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one can.
And it's often the answer is often
no.
No.
One has yet.
The answer is often no. Oh dear, yeah, it's a terrifying force, and so you played Deathwing Heavy Dark Angels for this whole edition, right? So this
Near enough,
new.
yeah.
There are a few people in the chat claiming that you bought the army on eBay a couple of weeks ago. There's a few people spreading gossip about you.
I mean, it's all true. If anyone's got any more Terminators, let me know.
Well, there's some new ones coming in the summer. But yeah, it's a really scary list, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you can do with it. And say it's hitting all those little tech notes with the supporting characters, and just making sure you've got the little tools for the job. That was the thing I tried to do in my turn one against this Dark Angel player. Was I tried to do a drive-by on Ezekiel because it left him out on the edge of something. So the Shroud Runner just flew past him and sniped him, shot him, and then I did the D3 mortal wound strat in the movement phase, and I just needed one more mortal wound, and I'd have had him. It was almost beautiful, but I didn't quite get it. So this guy in his turn one just like, well, this guy's clearly an idiot, so I don't need to do anything.
Just leaving him out in the open,
doing weird drive-bys when he needs to be winning the game.
I mean, all of our characters, like Ezekiel and the Ancient, are, especially with the Thunderhammer Storm Shield, are very tanky as well.
They're really tough.
2 up, 4 up.
Yeah,
so you can sometimes try and bait people.
As well. Yeah.
They will slap in combat.
Absolutely. No, exactly.
They're quite good to bait people. I quite often end up leaving Ezekiel or the Ancient on an objective as the rest of the army goes past. So I'm like, I'd rather just have one guy stood on it than 10 Terminators or 5 Terminators. So they can just hold an objective by themselves quite happily normally.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. It's a very, very scary list. And so I'm super excited for you. I think obviously you're due a good run at a Super Major, and I will be rooting for you the whole way.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
No problem at all. Yeah, it's going to be really fun. Really excited to see how you get on. So, Chris, AdMech.
Yeah, those beautiful AdMech. Yeah, so I've been trying to build the Inari for a while. It's taken quite a while, but I eventually got a list for Hail of Doom and a list for Inari that I was kind of like interested in. But as I said earlier, I was still going to take the AdMech. And we played a game on TTS, didn't we, Tom?
Yes, we did.
My first TTS dalliance, and I used Hail of Doom.
Yes, you did.
And it didn't quite tick the boxes. Something didn't quite feel right about it.
Chris also skipped an Eldar Psychic phase. I just want people to be aware of this.
My very first turn.
He didn't do a Psychic phase in turn 1. That's just not acceptable behaviour.
I don't think I've been a tournament without forgetting a Psychic phase.
We'll get him there. No, he was just like, don't need to do anything. What? What's going on?
Any powers. They're all offensive powers.
I need protect. Nah.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, I'll try Inari. And then Ed wanted to play a game, and Ed wanted to prepare for his Tyranids for London Open. And he's taking lots of Tyranid warriors as Leviathan. That's his list. And it was quite scary. And I'm not particularly the most finesse player when it comes to TTS. So I got first turn and I was like, I'm just going to run at him. And I did quite a lot of damage. And
you did.
Horrific amount.
You did so much damage. And
then Ed did a little bit, but not much.
Not enough.
And then I did some more damage.
You did.
Rift. And then we called it there. And at that point, at 11:35,
high on a TTS victory against Tyranids.
I was like, you should just take it, mate. Just take it. And I'm like,
I'm an enabler, mate. You shouldn't trust me.
I get the old battle scribe out, and I'm like, yeah, this is the list, blah blah blah. And we made a couple of changes. One, I think, in fact, and I submitted it at 11:50 something.
Yeah, you had about 6 minutes left.
A lot of forward planning, but no, when I built the list, it was just designed to have as much stuff in as I could manage, just to kind of get the incarn moving around, basically, and just, each unit hopefully has a role, can deal some damage, deal with the unit, punch up, whatever. So it's I did have a Farseer and a Farseer Skyrunner. I've got rid of the Farseer, so it's just a Farseer Skyrunner and the incarn. just for powers. Obviously, you have to have the Incarn. It's literally the only reason you play the Inari.
Mm.
Then troops-wise, I've got 2 5-mana Rangers and then 5 decked out Harlequin troops in the Starweaver. They no special weapons because they're always going to get out advance and charge, but they've got all the close combat weapons. And then fast attack, 2 units of 3 Shroud Runners and 3 Shining Spears, which Shining Spears are all fully upgraded.
Yeah.
And then 6 elites, so 2 units of Striking Scorpions, 1 upgraded, 2 units of Howling Banshees, 1 upgraded, a Warlock, something else, I've forgotten. Tom,
Wave Serpent's in there somewhere.
There's a Wave Serpent in there.
Yeah. D
there
cannons.
3 units of 1 D cannon.
Yeah.
There is the Warlock Skyrunner. That's it. 2 units of Dire Avengers.
That's it.
The spicy boys.
Obsec.
Did you go for the 2 6-mans?
Yeah, just 2 6-man, one which has Obsec. So it's just a load of stuff, and each unit can do quite a lot of damage. So after that test game, I drove to Lee's on the Monday and played a game into his demons, and I learned so much in this game because he was running 70 demonettes.
Yep.
8 fiends.
Yep.
2 little characters, Bellicor and Scarbrand.
Oh yeah.
And I got to go first. And he had 50 demonettes off the board.
Of course he did.
So I was like, well, it worked last time. So
I'm just gonna bum rush.
I bum rushed him.
I don't know where 50 deadly obsec models are. Let's just spread out. Let's just go.
Fucking go for it. And I killed.
If I can't see them, they can't hurt me.
Yeah, exactly. I killed 10 demonettes and 8 fiends in my turn, and he had Bellicor, 10 demonettes, and 2 characters left on the board.
At which point Lee was texting me saying, "I'm losing all my assets, so I think I'm going to lose."
Yeah. Basically, then Lee did his turn and killed some things in his deployment zone, but not everything. And at that moment, I was like, this was the thing that I learned, right? So obviously, your go-to instinct with the Incarn is something's died, right, teleport the Incarn in. I can cause havoc next turn. Excellent. This was a training game, so I kind of did it, and then I thought, well, actually, do I want to do it? Because actually, the big thing about the Incarn is you need to be able to teleport him to safety.
Yeah,
You've got Bellicor and Scarbrand who can kill me, who can kill the Incarn.
Oh, easily, yeah.
And I can't get the Incarn away because the problem I'm facing is that Lee now has Bellicor, 2 little characters there right next to Bellicor in his deployment zone, 10 demonettes in his deployment zone, and that's literally it. He has no shooting, so he's not going to kill any of my stuff in shooting, so I'm never going to be able to get the Incarn away. So at that point I was like, well, you know what? I know what I should do. I shouldn't teleport the Incarn in. I should just leave these 5 Scorpions that are here to kill the 10 demonettes and a character with some of my shooting, and reset all my screens elsewhere and just dominate 2/3 of the board and just have that. Instead, I decided to go for the Bellicor kill. And
Of course, why wouldn't you?
as all
hero's
know,
choice.
the Bellicor kill never works.
It doesn't. You never try and kill Bellicor.
At which point, I rolled my Strands of Fate dice and didn't roll a single hit or wound dice. I didn't have my 2 of my D cannons in range, and I did have 3 saves, which would be really good when he's ignoring invuns. And I went for the Bellicor kill, and I did 11 wounds to him, and I lost the Incarn and everything there, kind of like later on. And basically, that was just, I didn't have quite enough, and they won like 90, 70 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I knew as I was doing, I was like, my gut instinct is this is wrong, and I was pretty sure this was the wrong thing, but I just wanted to see, because what I actually wanted to do is see what happens if I just keep being really aggressive and I lose the Incarn early. Do I have enough play with the other stuff of just short on it? What I found is that Shining Spears and Howling Banshees have whiffed impressively every single time. The D cannons have been shit every single time, but the D cannons have got that balance of you're just hoping they spike at the right time.
And they're sort of a deterrent as well. It's kind of the mental impact that they have in terms of where people put heavy armor and that sort of stuff. And they're swingy as hell. They're definitely swingy.
Yeah,
as hell.
exactly. And if you're like, well, I'm gonna, let's say I roll below average consistently for a while,
Yeah.
I'm going to get those big spikes where they just go off.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
what you're playing for, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
But it didn't happen. But no, so it was a really, really useful game.
Yeah.
To like learn just about how my army moves and like the sort of structure and ordering of things. So yeah, I have absolutely no idea how most matchups go. All I know is I'm just going to run at people turn one. And see what's left.
Awesome. No, I think you're going to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I do think you'll enjoy it. I think they're really fun to play. When everything's clicking and you're doing everything right, it's extremely rewarding, and you feel very, very big brain and very smart. And you can lose the Incarn in the first couple of turns and win games, but it's hard. It definitely makes it hard once that goes. And as you say, with demons, especially in melee demons, I guess his value is also the fact that they're only killing stuff in melee. So he's always going to come at the end of the turn if he's still around to turn up. They're going to give you a window at some point, right?
And he needed more stuff on the board so I could teleport into different places.
Yeah, exactly that. So he just didn't have the opportunities. So. But hey, we all got to try and kill Be'lakor sometimes. I did that. I once had a practice game with Lee where I was like, I'll try and kill Be'lakor, and I just shot him to death with the whole GSC arm, and he died. I don't know how. Lee made like 4 saves out of like 25. Okay. But it was it's not something I normally try. Oh yeah, Admech can.
Anyone's really can do it that way.
Plus, you'll get opponents like me who set up an amazing charge with like, I don't know, I had probably about 10 Terminators. I had my Chaplain there. I was probably only about 4 inches away from the Incarn, and then I was like, I know, with my other unit, I'll just kill this one Dire Avenger that's on an objective the other side of the board. And of course, the Incarn then disappeared, and I was like...
Oh, it's so fun. It's just so frustrating for people. It's really, really enjoyable. Great. Okay, so Aarron, have you altered and developed on your list at all from the other day, or are you taking more or less the same pressure build?
Reasonably similar. I was trying out a war boss on foot in as a second wave with a small unit of knobs in the truck after the truck boys get out. Mm-hmm. But most of the time I found that they just stayed in there because I'd done enough damage or pressure to deny the primary, and then I was like, well, getting them out just gives away another point on their prisoners and 3 points on assassinate, which generally everyone takes. So they just kept reversing back up the board to stay away. So instead of taking them out, got some more CP, and I've chucked in a Death Dread with 4 claws because that sounds fun.
Oh, such a cool
one. It's just so cool. Yeah.
Bring him down.
This is my favourite.
3d6 charge. It sounds amazing.
I'm so up for it. I think he sounds awesome, and I think for his points, actually looking at him, he hits hard as well, right? He's no joke. Like you don't want that smacking something.
Yeah, I think it's in the war. It's 85 points in the war. It'll be 8 attacks at strength 12.
Yeah. So it's damage 3 as well, high AP. So he's
minus nasty. 3 damage.
Yeah. And deceptive.
Yeah, it's a great 5 points. It's just a menacing thing on a small base as well to chuck around.
Yeah. Very exciting. That's I think that's a really strong list. And again, Orcs, it feels like it's matchup dependent a little bit at the minute. There's a few things out there that aren't easy for them, but they're also in a really nice spot. So I think can definitely expect to do well with it. And then I haven't changed much, so I'm still going with 3 Phoenix Lords because it was fun. It was just fun. Morgan Ra didn't die. All event at the RTT. Let's see how long it takes you to die this time.
Everyone ignored her.
Is Morgan Ra a lady or a man?
I don't know.
I think it's a guy, but I don't know. So. I know Jane Zar's female. I'm not sure about Morgan Ra. A very important Phoenix Lord of the Dark Reapers. You know this. Morgan Ra. Give it a Google.
I believe that person identifies as male.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's useful. Anyway, best unit in my army, drastically OP. So Morgan Ra, Baharoth, Jane Zar, Mortal Wound Farseer with the Mark of the Incomparable Hunter and Kernio's Bay. So a very nice suite of characters, a lot of points in characters, which people who know me know I'm just very guilty of doing this. I just like characters. They're just fun. It's just fun yeeting characters around.
According to the Warhammer 40k Lexicanum, it is a he, and it's Baharoth's brother, apparently.
Oh, really? That's fun. Yeah. So you wouldn't leave your brother at home, would you? So it's very important for Baharoth.
It says he is also the brother of Baharoth, like the moon is to the sun. Isn't that nice?
Oh, that is nice. Oh, that's super cute. That's lovely. I'll make sure to tell my opponents that as they take them off the table.
I think someone's hacked David's account.
Oh no, what's happened?
He's offering £5 to the first person to kill Morgan Ra at the Open.
I'll go with that. First person to kill Morgan Roar at the Open gets £5. I think that's a very reasonable deal. I'm very happy to go with that. So alongside the Phoenix Lords, we've got 5 Rangers to do supporting stuff. We've got 2 squads of 6 Dire Avengers for actions and incidental shooting. They're very cheap, just very useful and very cheap. In the elites, I've got Scorpions. I've got Warlock Skyrunner. What else have we got? Can't remember off the top of my head. I took the Howling Banshees out. They're not in it anymore. I know that much. Oh no, the Dire Avengers are the elites. That's where I had the big hole. Fast attacks. I've got 4 fast attacks because that's the detachment I've gone with. So I've got 2 squads of Shroud Runners. I've got 6 Swooping Hawks with Winged Evasion and the Phoenix Plume relic. So I've got some minuses to hit. Got the Feel No Pain on the squad and the Exarch with a 4-up invuln. So some potential for tanking things a little bit if that thing is some limited incidental artillery fire. Nothing else, they will die. And I've also got a squad of Warp Spiders, got Web of Deceit on the Exarch, so the squad can shoot and teleport, and he's got Spider's Bite, which is a combat weapon. Then I've got a Night Spinner, 3 support weapons, and a Wraith Seer with a D-Cannon. The D-Cannons are support weapons as well. And the reason I've switched to some Swooping Hawks is the craft world I've gone with for this is Masterful Shots and Swift Strike. So you've got Ignore Cover, but you can also advance and shoot without penalty. So stuff can move around very quickly. And with the various UKTC rulings and other things, it keys off nicely with Battle Focus. Because you don't count as advancing, you can still do Battle Focus, which means things like Hawks have a longer threat range, can reach out further, can shoot, can still teleport, so can the Warp Spiders. Which makes Baharoth great, makes Morgan Ra great, because he can advance, shoot, Battle Focus, hide. Very nice. But I felt that with the game I've been trying to play, I need to be able to, with behind enemy lines, I need multiple units that can sneak in there late, because often I have to throw stuff away, and then it's how do I get in there late? Baharoth can get in there, I've got Hawks can get in there, I've got Warp Spiders can get in there. Yeah, exactly. I need to play that very carefully to make sure it's a 15 every time, because it's not really, it kind of holds them at arm's length. It's not really a here's my whole army, I'm in your deployment zone. It's more of a you're trying to get me, I'm hiding, I'm hitting you a bit. It takes a while, you know. And in the main, I'm just going to try and confuse people with Phoenix Lords and chip away at them, mortal wounds and shooting until they're dead. And I love the list. I think it's got a really nice balance to it. It's nice having all the aspects in there. And I don't know. This isn't one that I'm going into and thinking, oh yeah, I'll definitely place really well. I don't have any illusions that it's a bit silly and a bit fun in places, but it's got teeth. And if you don't know what you're doing, I will tear your head off. So yeah, it's going to be really fun. Looking forward to it. Right, great. Let's go into our next segment, which is going to be taken over by Chris. Chris is going to take over, Captain, and he's going to teach you all how to manage your emotions.
Woosa!
At the table. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, I think this is an interesting one because at face value, everyone is so different anyway. Once you've got, think about all the people you've played in events. Some people can go on tilt really quickly, get really annoyed really quickly. Some people just don't care. The exact same thing can happen to different people, and they can react in completely different ways. So I think going into this, like everyone's going to take different things away from this. But I thought it would be quite interesting just to research it, and because if we're trying to get better at playing, we want all the little things, and one of the things can be your focus, right? So when you're playing, you want to be able to play at an optimum level. And this isn't a big, right, let's get pumped so we can run harder and tackle faster or whatever. That's not what we're looking for, but we're looking for you to be able to play at your maximum capacity. And that in a mental game is obviously all going to come down to it. So we're going to focus kind of on the element of how to handle nerves and getting worried and that sort of thing. And then also kind of when you go on tilt. Yeah, you roll bad dice, you get really pissed off. How are you going to manage that? And if we think of anything else, or if anyone wants us to discuss any other...
Yeah, do pipe up with questions in the chat.
Davey's not here in person to talk about arousal, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Thank you to everyone, by the way, who is chipping in the chat. We really appreciate it. For some reason today, my chat isn't displaying by the side, so I'm having to dip into the chat occasionally to see comments. I'll sort this out next time. But really appreciate everyone who's sort of regular viewer who've piped up, and new people. Thanks very much. It's really, really cool to see you all here. And we'll obviously field some questions and engage a bit more directly with you towards the end. So thanks again. Cool. Over to you, Chris.
So, talking about kind of like nerves and stress and that sort of thing. So I've done a bit of research here. So research shows that how you, and this kind of makes sense as research always does, it proves the obvious, that how you perceive a situation impacts how you think, feel, and perform. So those three things are going to come out of just how you perceive it. And generally, you perceive a situation as either a challenge or a threat. So any sort of thing that comes about, you're either going to be challenged by it or you're going to be threatened by it. And those people who are kind of feel challenged by it are the ones who thrive under pressure. So that's because, and so those sorts of things, if you're feeling challenged in a way, then that's going to increase the adrenaline, which is going to help you focus. Whereas if it's a threatening situation, you're going to produce more cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So therefore, what we want to be doing is thinking about how to make ourselves wanting this to be a challenge state. And what we're trying to achieve then is that we're trying to have self-belief in our skills. We're trying to feel in control of the situation. We want to have supportive people around us. And we also want to be thinking about past experiences where we were successful. And that sort of thing. So that's what we want to be trying to achieve. And then conversely, we obviously want to be avoiding feeling isolated. You don't want to be focusing on what you'll lose if it goes wrong, which I think is a big one. We quite often go to the tabletop and we're worried about what could happen. I'll use a boring cricket example here. England cricket test team were appalling. Like 2 years ago, they were awful. They were in a really bad place.
I thought so.
And they've changed their captain, changed their coach, and they've been on a ridiculous win streak recently. And a big part of that is they've completely changed their mental philosophy. So they've started playing really, really aggressively. And Test cricket, for those of you who don't know, is 5 days. It's a very chilled affair, very slow-paced. And England have completely turned that on the head. And just that fear of kind of like, it doesn't matter if you get out, go for your shots. As a batsman, can have a really big impact. So that you can see it being these sorts of ideas used across professional sport. Also, you don't want to be worrying about looking bad. And finally, you don't want to be in a position where you're thinking the outcome is unobtainable. And I think we've all been there. We've turned to matches where we've gone, I can't win this. And that is obviously something that isn't going to have any sort of positive effect. So I think it's also important to remember that there are no realistically good or bad emotions. As we said, anger can make you try harder, so it can have that positive effect, although more in a competitive physical sport. But at the same time, it can obviously change your lack of focus. And also, we're trying to remember that people react in different ways. So if you've got a footballer who's missed a ton of opportunities, that footballer might well be the sort of person that wants to shy away from the ball. Don't give it to me, I want to be out of the game. Or they might be the person that says, give me the ball more, I need to make the most of this. So what I wanted to do was kind of go to you guys and say, let's say you've got your first round pairing, you've got Vic VJ, Manny Chima, etc.
At the same time, that's not
double team.
With half your army. But you're nervous, you're worried. How do you manage that? I've got a bunch of tips, but I'm curious to see how you manage and deal with those kind of nerves. So should we start with you, Tom?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so I don't think I've drawn a player to quite that standard in the first round before, but I have drawn strong players in round one plenty of times, right? And so I think a recent example that pops up at the top of my head would be Jack Tight. When I drew Jack Tight round one for, I can't remember which event, it might have been Leicester. And I think psychologically that this is where I think, because I very much view and approach the game as a social experience, and I'm very interested in meeting and learning from top players, and that's something I see as a value in the game. I think when I play top players, one of the things I always take away from it is, well, I'm going to meet someone who's really good at the game, I'm going to be able to talk to them, and I'm going to get the opportunity to connect with them and meet with them and learn from them as well. So I was very excited to play Jack because I've chatted to him before. I know he's very talented, and I was really excited about that. So I think for me, although it was going to be a difficult game, I was able to see lots and lots of positives in that, and I guess in a way there was also the challenge I mentioned, right? I was like, well, yeah, if I can beat Jack, that's a really good result against a really top player, and I definitely was seeing it in terms of, this is absolutely a game that I can win. And I guess in terms of sort of expectation management at events in a more zoomed out sense as well, in terms of pathways and trajectory. Losing one game at the start doesn't trouble me too much either, because I've done that plenty of times, and what often happens is you end up then powering through the next few games because you're on a different track, and that can put you on a different pathway anyway. That's often quite a positive one in other ways. So I like to play top players at events, and I hope to. So if I draw on round one, I guess I rationalise it in as much as, well, this is one of the things you want from the event, and you've already got it. So it's nice in that sense.
Paul, how do you manage those sorts of games?
Yeah, I mean, the first round, even if whether it be a top player or, even if it's a name I've never heard of, because it's the first round, you get your pairings early. I'll put in the time to do the research, so I will build their list in, Battlescribe. I'll look through all the units. I'll see the rules. I'll try and not memorize it, but get familiar with what certain units can do. While I'll look at their special rules, psychic powers. So I've got a baseline understanding of what I'm facing before I go into it.
Yeah.
And I know, generally speaking, no one really likes losing, but I always try and think you learn more from stuff that I find from a loss than you would from a win.
100%.
And you'll always think, and it's always good then afterwards just to speak to your opponent, I find, and just say, look, how do you think the game would have gone if I'd have done this move instead? Or is there something I could have maybe done to improve on what I did? So there's always ways to learn from it, but yeah, there's always that issue when things aren't going your way that you can get, as they call it, salty at the table. And it's just, like I said, it's how you just got to try and manage it yourself. I normally, even if I'm playing like a really good player, I normally try and make a joke out of the game anyway. I try and have a laugh with my opponent,
It's already
and it takes, which is the biggest joke of all, is just playing against me normally. But when you're both having a laugh and you're having fun, you kind of care less about who's winning and losing than
completely.
If you're taking it as like some sort of serious competitive thing, and if you just make it into a social thing instead between two new people, then I just find the game just happens to go a lot smoother either way.
Isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
100%. I like that. That's a really good point. And Aarron?
I just get really annoyed if I go into saying I can't win it. If it's not someone I'm going to be able to ruffle stomp, then I don't want to turn up really.
Yeah, I get that. It's the right way. It's definitely
Davey approach.
No, look, for me, like similar to echoing things that you lot have said, like the first and foremost, it's a social contract I'm entering with my opponent. That's what's more important to me over anything, is the interaction I have with them. And yeah, the reality is no game is defined. You don't know the outcome of the game. You don't know what's going to happen. There's dice involved. You can mitigate that chance by using skill and experience, but sometimes things just don't go the right way for one of the turns, or someone doesn't quite kill someone, and you can take advantage of that yourself. So yeah, like a bit like Tom said, like I like the challenge of it. It's like it's almost like a free hit, because everyone's expecting me to lose if I'm playing into Manny or into so the achievement of, if you get close to beating them or beating them, playing a game against them is worth so much more to try and fight towards. And it's the same as that if you play a game against yourself, you're going to win. It's really easy, but that doesn't mean as much as playing and beating or coming close to beating someone that is perceived and is ranked much higher than you.
Completely.
Yeah. No, I think like the common thread there is the perception, isn't it? It's the idea that it's, you are taking it on as a challenge and you aren't worrying about the outcome, which is one of the things that we kind of spoke about. As soon as you put too much pressure on the outcome, and I know that I played Vic a while ago, and I was running Harlequins and he was running Emperor's Children. I found out the match on like Monday or Tuesday, the pairing, and in my mind I was like, and other people were saying, like, this is definitely a game.
I thought you had a good game.
Definitely a game Harlequin.
Shockingly, Vic knew something we didn't. Who knew?
So I built this game up massively in my head. I was like, it's heavily favouring me. So if I lose, then that means there's a huge golfing class. And as soon as we started playing it, I was like, everyone else is wrong. This is a really hard game to play. And, obviously Vic played it perfectly, but I really put a lot of pressure on myself because of that. And whereas if I'd gone in with the approach of, it really doesn't matter, just try and get the most out of the game, and that sort of thing. So I've got 10 tips here for you. So
10.
They're going to be
amazing.
Hopefully. 10 tips for you to manage or deal with kind of like the stress or the nerves or that sort of thing, and how you can try and get yourself in the best headspace going into that game. Obviously, they're not all going to be applicable all of the time. So the first one is listening to music. I know when I used to do tournaments and that sort of thing for other sports, like it'd be the pump up kind of anthems in the car as you got there. That really helped you focus, help get the adrenaline going, and all those sorts of things. It's not something you don't want to hit the table like.
What you need a walk-on song for when you hit the table.
Yeah, exactly. A walkout like wrestling. That's how you should appear to the table.
When we start doing 6++ events, we should definitely have like walk-ons for like the final or something.
I get hyped for playing GSC by playing Les Miserables. It's good. It's very GSC. It suits them. It works. It works.
So that's one. The next one is just self-talk, positive affirmation, and it sounds silly, but it's just, you keep saying the positive things, you do eventually believe them. Another big thing is positive visualization. A lot of the top sportsmen visualize them doing the thing that they're trying to do. And I can think of a really good example. The opposite of this is, again, boring cricket. When I was like 18, 19, 4 games in a row, I was an opening batsman, 4 games in a row, I got 0. Okay? And it was awful. And I went into that 5th game, and I was trying to do the positive visualization thing, and I couldn't. I literally couldn't imagine myself like hitting the ball off the square.
Be the ball.
And
Be the ball.
it was so mentally, it's horrendous. And I was like, as the opening bowler ran in on that next game, I was like pretty much like shaking. Just like my head was like, I just couldn't focus. Everything was a fog. I managed to edge the ball through the slips, got off the mark. The whole crowd of 4 people went wild, and I went on and did okay. But it was really hard to visualize. But that can be a really important thing.
Yeah.
The next one, being efficient in what you're doing in terms of how you're spending your time. So the example here is a tennis player spent all of her time arguing with the referee, the umpire, about calls. And how often did the umpire turn around the call? Virtually never. So therefore, it wasn't an efficient use of the energy to the result. I think we can all experience that. We've all experienced that at 40k when it comes to dice, and you've rolled your dice. It suddenly feels like the whole game has gone because you haven't landed the average hit rolls that you were supposed to be doing. So I think it's about, and we will talk about going into in a bit, but that's something which is really important.
Yeah.
Facing your fears. I found this one quite an interesting one. So there are 3 ways we cope with situations. We either avoid them, we react in an emotional way, or we problem focus them. So for example, imagine you're worried about snakes in your garden. I mean, why wouldn't you be?
Boy, am I.
It's a regular occurrence for me, worrying about snakes in my garden. And
live in Uganda and you will learn to worry about it. It'll happen.
I mean, I've seen the movie of snakes on the plane, so it must be even worse when they're in the garden.
So you could decide to never go in your garden again, which would be an avoidance strategy.
Yeah.
Or you could convince yourself that having snakes in your back garden isn't actually that bad, and that would be an emotional way. Or you can come up with the problem focus, which is obviously get rid of the snakes.
Yeah.
And whereas avoidance and emotional can have like quite short-term positives, they won't have long-term ones. So therefore, we want to be trying to think about problem solving. So when we're dealing with like the kind of the problem solving aspect of things, what we want to be doing is thinking, how do we solve this problem long-term, and kind of like go from there. Okay, so that's 5. The next one, very quick, relax your body. Just try tensing your muscles for a few seconds and then relax them. Apparently, research shows that leads to a reduced heart rate. So there we go.
Very good.
Learning from others, role play. We all have a bit of role play.
Especially at the table.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's just thinking about those difficult situations and practicing them. I know when we do it a lot at school. I'm a teacher for those Don't know. And we do a lot of like role playing situations, and it just helps you be more prepared for them in real life. And we've all been on these work courses, haven't we? Where they're like, right, we're going to role play how to manage this situation. You all hate it, but then you just want to be talked at and just get it done with. But then when you actually role play it, you do actually feel a lot more secure in that situation. Reviewing your your games and that sort of thing, developing that aspect of self-awareness, it helps you being prepared. Paul and Aarron Paul spoke about making the list in Battle Scribe. I think that's just, you always feel a lot more satisfied and happier in yourself going into the game, potentially knowing what their game plan is or knowing what their list does. It's the unknowns that create that negative emotion, right?
And that's beginning to solve the problem, right? If you're actually like working out what the problem is, right?
Yeah, precisely. So anything you can do to be more prepared is about what we said earlier, about having that network of support, talking all the plans myself. But I just like that reassurance and bouncing ideas off loads of people, because sure, even I guess you could say, I would say more knowledge is better. Obviously, it could lead to
knowledge
confusion.
is power.
Knowledge is power. It could lead to confusion and mixed messages, but you get to work out what the key takeaways you want to know. And then there's a couple more, but it's another one is, for example, taking deep breaths. It's just centering yourself. It's amazing how helpful deep breaths can be.
I mean, even with the deep breath things, like I've had like challenging, either challenging experiences at the table from my own, dice rolls or poor movement, or just from like the opponent as well. And what I'll do is I'll just go out for a cigarette. I'll just say to the opponent, or just you can just excuse yourself to the bathroom. You've got plenty of time generally at a game. You can go get yourself a couple of minutes, just go outside and just have a breath. Just relax yourself, think about it, and then just crack on and go back in there.
That can break you out of whatever.
That cycle is so much better, I find.
And also, it gives you opportunity to see things from a completely different perspective.
You can just sort of get a fresh state of mind on things.
Yeah, I know Lee has said before that he was like, I just need to go to the toilet, and he went off to the toilet, and then whilst going for a pee, came up with a game-winning strategy, and then came back and won the game. And just those mental
Please
breaks.
Magic everybody.
I think it's just that sort of taking away from the self situation. A tournament I won, I remember being in I was kind of in the final. I'd been told that if I won, then I'd probably win the event. And I just took myself away with like a turn to go or something, and not to think in any way, just to recenter myself and just to get away from it, just to kind of break that cycle of, because your brain's immediately, the adrenaline's like going overboard there. You're like, I'm going to win, this is amazing, I'm going to win this event. And you suddenly stop thinking clearly. So just to try and break that cycle. So that's kind of like some things about dealing with kind of like nerves and anxiety. And then I guess the other thing I wanted to touch on was going on tilt. So for those of you who don't know, going on tilt is where something bad happens and you get angry, like really angry, and then it affects your performance. So it's classic on computer games. Like, this is bullshit, and then there's a hole in the wall, or the TV or whatever.
You score on FIFA and they leave the game, all that. All that sort of stuff.
So I think we've all been there. So I'm curious, like, how do you, and it affects people in different ways, because some people will roll dice and roll crap and be like, oh well, and other people. So for me, for example, I know that actually I am far more likely to get annoyed with people who I know and play with. And the most angry I've been at tables before, probably not surprising to those of you who know, but Jamie East. Funny about Jamie East, his amazing ability to just draw out pure rage. And I have a history of, like, at key moments rolling badly with Jamie East. And I just, that's when I felt the most rage. When I play a tournament game, I don't ever get angry. I don't know what that is, Paul.
Kirby flipping a table.
Oh yeah.
Oh, cute.
Oh, nice. But how do you guys? I don't know if you do get angry at the table, but how do you guys manage bad dice? Shall we start with you, Tom?
Yeah, I don't dice. I don't tend to get spun out by, really. I've never really. I think it's taken me a long. I wasn't a natural for knowing what expected outcomes in the game were. I am good at maths, but I've never really studied it or done it, and so I've started to get that now. But that was never something that I was going into the games knowing what was likely to happen. I'm a bit better at it now. I think, fortunately, I've just not ever. Yeah, sometimes things work, sometimes they don't work. That's okay. I think making mistakes, I can definitely get a little bit down, but I think it's important to turn that into a learning opportunity as quickly as you can. That's what I do normally. So, in this game I played against Sam, the Grey Knights player, the other week, I'd basically just left a completely unnecessary gap that he could teleport into and disarm a bomb at the end. And it's one of those things where you're like, oh, it's just such a brainless thing to have done in the last turn of the game. Haven't thought it through. But again, tried to very quickly turn that around to be something that was like, well, that's a very useful lesson for making sure you screen out your bombs at the end of the game and make sure people can't get at them, and that's what the lesson was. It didn't actually affect that game in the end, but it was one of those moments where I was a little bit frustrated with myself. Yep. So yeah, I think trying to find the positives and the learning experiences in what happens. Dice is a really interesting one because I think that's the other flip side to it, is a lot of the time when dice let you down, the actual learning that you should be doing is what about that situation meant that you needed one particular role to go one particular way, and were there other ways you could stack that up in your favour so that you didn't. So we take killing a land fortress against the Votan, for example, right? I'd lined up so that everything I had could have a go at it if I needed it to, and so when a few things bounced, he made a few 4-ups on D cannons, all that sort of thing. In the end, a warlock with a shuriken catapult killed that bad boy, took its last wound off it because I'd lined everything up so that if there are points of failure, I've got every single resource I can possibly throw at this thing to cover my ass, right? But it'd been easy to say, oh, my D cannons whiffed, sulk, and then that's the end of the game. But actually, you've got to be ready for the D cannons to whiff because they do that. Trust me, they do that a lot. So yeah, I think there's lessons there as well. And there's things like charge distances and analysing how effective and how likely plans were. I think that always helps as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much exactly how I mean, you've obviously got that sort of gambler's fallacy, isn't it? Where you think, oh, I've rolled lots of really bad dice. I must now spike. I must now have a whole run of, nothing but 4+ or whatever, which obviously the game never works
casino
like that.
that is playing Dark Angels as well.
It literally is like that. Yeah, so yeah, you just... I mean, one of the things, I stopped doing command re-rolls as much as possible now, apart from, for hits and wounds and that, because generally speaking, a 1 will always roll into a 1. That's 100% guarantee, so there's never point in ever trying to re-roll it. So I try and just, like you said, I always have redundancies, basically. If I think I need to try and make a charge, can I get 3 units there to try and have as many rolls on that charge as possible so that I can get at least one thing in there. It's just making sure that you understand that not everything is going to go the way you want it, and is killing that unit actually necessary? Can you just play the game around without having to do that? Just take the objectives off them is generally enough to take the score off people, regardless of whether you kill them or not. So there is sort of other ways of playing the game that doesn't rely so much as making sure you kill everything exactly to the wound. Just keep rolling dice at things. Eventually, something's going to kill something.
Fact.
You heard it here first, people.
Yeah, things die in Warhammer. And Aarron, how do you manage your anger at the table?
It's a game. I don't tend to get that. So I'm not a particularly angry person in life anyway. I'm too much busy trying to have fun and be stupid. So, painting little toy miniatures and fighting battles with them. So I can't say I've ever. I've never come close to finding anger or anything like that in a game through actions that I have done. I can get a bit riled with people's attitudes, maybe, but again,
that's actually more likely to wind me up than anything else. Is when that social contract, it feels like that's being broken. I think that's the thing that makes me most frustrated, is if I perceive that to be being violated. That's the only time I'd actually, but I like to think that's in the name of approaching it the right way, but that can manifest in hostile ways, right? So that's the one time I have to watch it as well, which is calling people out on perceived bad habits, which can itself be aggressive and mean and unnecessary as well.
You have to try a lot harder, Scrivo.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting one because actually, like dice rolls are just dice rolls. But for me, the thing that ticks me off the most is when I make a silly mistake. So going back to a game I played against Jamie East, where I was in full control for 3 turns, I made two or three really stupid mistakes. Turn 4 and I lost the game, and that was what made me so incredibly annoyed. And it wasn't Jamie, it was with myself. And
of course,
you kind of have to like try and take yourself away and that sort of thing. As you say, the game itself, the dice and it's dice are dice. Sometimes they will let you down, and you just have to hope that the variance is like kind of in not too extreme. And sometimes you do just lose because some stupid things happen, and it's very rare. Usually there are so many ways you could have played it that there were.
There's a quote in the US office where Dwight's like, "Not everything's a lesson, Ryan. Sometimes you just fail."
Exactly.
It's so good.
And I think that's for me is the thing. So that was hopefully helpful to some people.
Yeah, man, well researched. That was really.
I did think of a couple of things. I didn't chime in earlier with the anxiety and that sort of side of it. And I think it's remembering, like, one thing I do for work is like the chemicals that set off anxiety and stuff like that are exceptionally close to excitement.
Yeah,
and it's just and it's the way it's perceiving it in a different way, turning that, and I find that helps me sort of take it.
I get
I'm not anxious. I'm just excited.
No, but that's exactly it. It's both when I get it in games, and that's often not really related to whether the game's going well or not. It could just be just later on when you're knackered on a Sunday.
If you can, have a wank before you go to the tournament. It's great. Like, let a bit of steam off, go with a clear edge. No.
Never go with a loaded gun.
Pop into the toilets then, but if you can do it in the privacy of your home or a hotel room, it's a lot easier.
And the Blues Roundup next week, Aaron's going to be doing a whole series on moments you can have a wank in in order to better your development and experience as a 40k player. It's going to be a really good series.
Not at the table.
I'm saying
not at the table.
Week 1, places you don't do it.
But that's interesting because quite often you hear professional sportsmen say that they don't have sex before events.
That's interesting.
Because they
do a lot more running than we do, though, don't they? I think.
Yeah, they don't want the calm.
That's different, isn't it? So for male sports athletes, they want to maintain it because of the testosterone or something. But then female athletes want to have more sex because it builds up their testosterone. So it's.
Oh, that's interesting.
Anyway.
Yeah. I think you mentioned control a couple of times. I think that's a really relevant one because I think this is one of the reasons I'm generally able to stay quite level-headed is in terms of doing the work of understanding what goes on in the game. I work very hard at it, as in I read and try and understand every army. I try and understand it. So it is so rare that I play against something where I don't know what it's going to do. I think it's easy to be relaxed. If you know this list is really good, really well designed, it's going to stuff me, then that's fine. Like that's an outcome where it's like you understand what's going to happen and you know why. And so I think that helps to mitigate surprises, right? Is to have if you're well researched and prepared into different armies, different situations, you're going to be caught out less. You're going to have those sort of unpleasant surprises less, and that can all help you to. It's getting out of hand in the chat.
I was just reading the same thing.
Oh dear. So that's basically. I think if you've done the work on your army, on understanding others, and you've prepared yourself, that's all you can do. And then it's about going in there and giving your best performance of yourself. And I think if you're not putting yourself in a position where you feel like there's more you could have done, then that's all you can do, and that's the key thing really.
And before it goes too far. So that is how to imagine it.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That was really interesting. I reckon there's a series in that. That was great. That was really.
So also with me, if I feel like a game is going south and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm losing this game, I'll just set myself my own stupid little personal goals. I'm like, I'm going to kill this character, or can I stop you scoring 100 points? Then that becomes my own little mini game in itself. That I don't have to worry about everything.
So when my first ever Hellstorm I went to, obviously a brand new player, I think I went, what was it, like 2-4, 2-3, can't remember. Anyway, on the way up to that, we had like the Hellstorm chat, and I was like, most memorable Eldrad death. I had Eldrad on my list. Gets a Twix, was basically the deal. So that Eldrad, if you kill him in a really epic way, you get in a Twix. And then obviously in quite a few games, Eldrad died because I got brutalized in quite a few games. But we had this really epic one where a guy ran his Wolf Lord through the lines, and the Wolf Lord ran Eldred down with a hammer. It was just badass, and yeah, so that was fun, and it was a way of, again, finding some fun and positives in the negative, which is your Warlord stead or whatever it is. Yeah,
Cool.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we've got a little mini game for you all now, so get ready, everybody.
Oh yeah.
So this game is catchy title, short and snappy. It is Guess the Infamous 9th Edition Unit. What I've done here is I've got plucked out of my memory 5 units. There's no Deathwing Terminators. 5 units from across 9th edition that were, for one reason or another, very infamous or sort of got a lot of noise, were very unpopular with some people for some reasons at different points, or with the sort of focus of people's ire or frustration. And I'm going to start describing that unit. You've got to try and quickly guess what it is I am talking about. Okay, so you in the chat can join in, fill your boots. 5 units, just randomly plucked out.
I'm a full bunker.
I'm a full bunker. So, if we are all sitting comfortably and ready to begin, we will start.
Could you say round 1, please, Tom?
Round 1.
Fight.
Crouching.
So, this is quite an early book of 9th edition, and this guy is slow, smelly.
The fight
Ruins
last
your
guy.
fight.
Blightstorm.
Yes, nailed it. Absolutely nailed it, Paul. It was the Foul Blightspawn. Very well done. Chris did say fights last guy, so Chris was on his way.
I still know his name, but yeah.
So, Foul Blightspawn's first one. Okay. Next up.
That is so loud.
Spiky. He's stabby.
Drakar,
Pops out from places.
Jazar.
Bizarre.
Yes, Chris. It is indeed Drazar.
Master of Blades.
So, Drazar, Master of Blades. So that's 1 to Paul, 1 to Chris so far. Okay. Next up. Very skewy defenses. Essentially free rerolls. 90 points when it came out. Lots of shooting, and people very quickly realised you just need to spam a bunch of these.
Oh, the Void Weaver from the Star
Paul
Void
has
Weaver.
it. It is the Void Weaver. Very, very good. It was the Void Weaver. Okay, so Paul is on 2, Chris is on 1. Aarron hasn't turned up, but he's not going to let it tilt him.
Yeah.
He's hanging in. Aaron's like, I'm just waiting for this to be over, mate.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't play for most of the night.
No, that's true, actually. Yeah. We're probably approaching your time now. So, in theory, this is a basic troop choice, but it ended up dominating the game for a few months. Good shooting.
Vanguard?
Nope.
Rangers.
Good melee.
Oh.
Absolute pain to kill with the right defenses layered on it.
Rubric
Is
Marine.
that your
Very cheap at the
rack
time.
things or?
No, it's not
rack
racks.
attack.
So enormous bricks of these bullying the board as
Tyranid
one
Warriors?
of the later builds. Yes, Paul, it's the Tyranid Warrior. Very, very good. Paul 3. I think he has now 1 because there is only 1 left. Okay, right. Round 5. Where's your button sound? Oh, I've got used to it now. Thank you. So, got the infantry keyword for reasons completely unclear. Smashes everything he touches.
Morgan Ra.
Can't-
Abaddon.
Yes.
Abaddon, yeah.
I like that you had time to get the joke answer in and still bring it home with the correct answer. My next point was can't decide what legion to be today, etc., etc. That's right. So that is Abaddon. Paul, mate. Okay. Well,
Play this game far too much.
that
Obviously.
that was really very impressive, Paul. Well done. That's good. I might bring that game back because there's obviously a lot more unit out there that people have been annoyed with over the years. Wonderful. Okay. Then I think we've got some questions, and then I think it's pretty much time to go home. So we're going to start fishing in the Discord. Obviously, you, the listener, if you want to throw a super chat in and buy Chris some nice things, he'd very much appreciate it. He needs all the Inari units he can get because he's obviously switched army again at the moment, thanks to our encouragement. But we'll field questions in the chat more generally as well. So if one of you guys wants to take the chat questions, I will fish off of the Discord.
We haven't had any chat questions.
Sweet. Well, maybe they'll come, maybe they won't. Doesn't really matter.
Oh, and then we have one on Lee Churchwood. I think this is towards you, though, Chris. When talking about cricket, do they eat their cucumber sandwiches aggressively with the crust on? Is that how they change their batting attack?
It's how they've done it, and you know what? It's worked wonders. So, it's way forward. Aggressive
Wonderful.
eating.
So, first question we have from Discord is from Bloodrender, and he asks, how do you all get over or around hobby block, both for playing and building painting? Also for Chris, how much is too much painting to do before an event?
Well, I'll let you know. If I didn't have an airbrush, I'd be like, but I think we might be okay. How do I get around hobby block is paint something else, or force it through, because sometimes it's just got to get done. I would only be painting something I didn't want to paint if I had to get it done for an event. At the end of the day, we're doing this as a hobby.
At which point you want to do something else, right? So there's something more important. Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to paint it, unless you have to, don't paint it. Paint something else. Just paint a character.
Stop.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at it. I'm kind of at it with Paul, which is like sometimes I don't want to paint, or I don't want to play, and I think it's important to listen to that. We do this. Let's face it, a lot. Like, we do this a lot. We talk about it a lot. We think about it a lot. And actually, feeling like you want a few days off is a very valid thing, as is sitting out the meta for a chunk of time, or trying a different game, or just going and doing other stuff. I think that's all very valid. With hobby and painting especially, I do definitely think, as Chris says, switching out to something else. Like, I love painting a character, right? Painting a character is just a nice time. You get one model and you just go, and it's a nice way to sort of revitalize yourself a bit if you've been painting a lot. Like, as Paul is painting that beautiful Azrael over there. So go where the excitement is, and go where the joy is sometimes as well.
Yeah, I think the only other bit I do is just switch from painting and build something.
Yeah, I'm often in the mood for one but not the other, definitely. Yeah.
I hate building. No, thank you.
I hate building. I hate painting. I do it, but I don't enjoy. So when I get into the zone, I'm happy with it. I prefer the painting to the building side of things. If I could just have pre-built models, I'd be in my element, I think.
Next up, we've got Elmo Miniatures, who asks, would the Home Alone kid actually survive being turned into a Space Marine? Does he have what it takes?
No.
No, absolutely, obviously doesn't.
Reedy little runt.
Yeah. But that is a reminder that Lewis has launched The Rest is Warhammer, and you should go and watch The Rest is Warhammer on our YouTube after this, because it's a really fun episode, and we get right into how Space Marines are made.
Good background listening whilst you're painting.
Is it when a mummy Space Marine and a daddy Space Marine fall in love?
They love each other.
Very much.
Graphic, intimate detail.
Oh dear, sadly not. No, it's horrific. Navaris then asks, what personal bugbears do you hope they remove for 10th? The example they give is, I want 6s to hit, counting as 6s to wound gone. Yeah, that is a very obnoxious one, to be fair. Yeah, alternatively, what do you hope they keep or add for 10th? What do you hope they remove?
Mortal wounds.
Mortal wounds, did you say?
Yeah, mortal wounds are obnoxious.
I don't like the way it works. No. Right, so I don't like the way it works, that it just goes through everything. There's like no defenses against it unless you've got a special extra one. I don't think it's been worked quite well on how prevalent it is. Like, you just go up and you have no option. You've got your, it's so flavorful, isn't it? Like, you've got your super tanky, like
different terminators that you can't kill. I need my mortal wounds.
Yeah, no, come on, man.
That's the problem. Like, I don't like how it just goes through everything. It just, I don't think it works right.
So you'd rather us just not be able to kill different terminators?
Yes.
That's the future you want to live in.
Just roll 4s.
Just roll 4s.
Nuts.
Yeah,
50% of the time it works all the time.
I like mortal wounds. Is there anything?
I really hope they keep the thing where they bring out a rule, and then they bring out another rule to counter that rule, and then they bring out another rule to counter the rule that counters the rule, and they just keep snowballing this effect. It's so much fun. I love that.
I dislike that. I'd like it if each book that came out wasn't the immediate hard counter.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Can you not just mix it up a bit? What other mechanics are obnoxious? I think no reroll stuff has to be very rare. I think no rerolls is.
I think they've already sort of mentioned that
you
they're
need to
tying
make
down the
things
rerolls.
less hyper efficient so that you don't need to take those efficiencies away.
Yeah, having an army that lasts 5 turns would be nice. I mean, obviously mine does, but for other people, is what I'm saying.
Yours lasts 8 turns, Paul.
Yeah, but I think they do need to tone down, because at the moment some games with certain builds and armies, they can literally table the opponent in 2 turns, and I just think
Yeah.
it's just a weird way of playing the game. You kind of want the game to last 5 turns at least, surely,
Sure.
but make the turns quicker if you can, or some way. I don't know.
Yeah, and they obviously need to bring seizing the initiative back in, don't they? Because that was fun.
Oh, and night fighting.
Night fight.
Oh, and round 6 and 7 if needed.
Yeah.
You just randomly roll for it.
Does it end? Who knows? Oh, I remember those.
Oh yeah, the random game end length.
Yeah, that was so weird.
Nuts. Yeah, ridiculous. So then we have Gail Morris asks, do you have any concerns about the sneak peeks that have been shown so far?
Yeah, those bloody squad leaders.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, characters plugging into squads is
like
it's
it.
a big change.
It's
a big change, and this is one
I
where
like it. I think it's quite cool.
I see the potential in it. It's so hard to conceptualize how a lot of the armies I play would work with characters like that, but we'll it'll be.
But this was the issue of 7th, right? You could do it to loads of characters to a unit, Death Star, and then it went
They've already said that apart from in niche circumstances like Captain, Lieutenant, you only have one
but
character.
there's still those potential issues if they get it wrong. And let's face it, they don't historically get these things right. But yeah, I like the reroll thing because it helps with your positioning, and it's all about getting the synergies and how you lay out your army and structure the move. You've got like that linchpin unit, and you're distributing it out to the other units, rather than just this unit goes off, does its thing with its character. This unit.
Also, how much time is going to be saved in the game when you're not having to measure where your character is? They're making sure
it's true.
all the other armies
take that
linked
long.
back to these auras. Yeah, but when you're daisy chaining, then making sure that that they're not going to be ganked by something that you haven't killed.
Yeah, skill. It's a certain technique that you've got to get, and it's what the stronger players can do. And that was my issue with to step into 9th, to think they took some things away which were skill based, and I hope they don't do the same again.
Yeah, for sure. And then finally, Havoc asks, how often do you usually enforce what you see is what you get? And also, how much do you find opponents generally care about a painted army?
I care about a painted army.
Yeah, I think everyone appreciates a nicely painted army, and people will comment. I will always comment if I see it, but I think, especially at competitive events, I think there are so many other priorities people have. It's never bothered me if the army's a little bit ropey looking. Like, there are occasional moments where I find the line. Like, there was a lad playing with bases that were mortars that had no mortars on and were just lined up in the back building it. And I was like, come on, man, you can't just say those are mortars. So there are occasional things that make me a little bit loopy. But
the problem when you've got grey models is that when there's no detail on them, they all kind of blur into one if they're all a similar size and height.
Yeah.
And then it only takes to be on grey terrain, and you're like, now I can't see it.
It's definitely a much less immersive and enjoyable gaming experience. Like, if you play locally with mates and you bring grey plastic, it doesn't do anything, does it? Yeah, but it's fine for practice. But like, I love a fully painted army playing on a fully thematic board and all that stuff. It looks great.
To Paul's point, I played against Sisters once, and he had a ghost theme. Screw you, Dave. And the whole ghost theme for the Sisters meant I had no idea what each unit was. And actually it did make it quite tricky because it was just all blocks in the middle, and I was like, I don't know who I'm charging here. So it does.
I had a similar thing at the Leicester Super Major. One of my last, towards the end of the tournament, I played a guy who had a fully converted Chaos Space Marine, but it was all Chaos Demons. He was using Age of Sigmar models. Nothing was the model it was meant to be, and I was so confused throughout the whole game, trying to remember which model was meant to be which unit. It was so annoying. I got there in the end, but yeah, and it looked amazing, but it was so frustrating to play against because I just could not work out instantly what I was doing because nothing looked like it was meant to.
Yeah, that is. There are obvious reasons that it's important to try and do it where you can. I think with WYSIWYG specifically, the game just changes so quickly and so much now.
I don't think
You can't. Like, your models aren't going to survive if every time Drukhari, if every time a disintegrator cannon is better than a dart lance, I swap them over. They will all just be dust.
No one knows.
Within a year.
Magnetise
Yeah,
them.
exactly. Yeah, you can magnetize them.
No one's
Maybe
got
I
time
don't
for
like.
magnets.
Maybe I'm anti-magnet. You don't know. But yeah, no, absolutely.
You don't know me.
You don't know me. Yeah, so exactly. Yeah, there's ways around it, but I think it's something to not. As long as you're again engaging in a good spirit and you're making things easy for your opponent to understand, being very clear in what's where.
It just needs to be clear.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like industrial weapons on neophytes or whatever. Like, I'd always take the same loadout for every squad and keep it simple that way, and then there's no doubt, right? It makes it straightforward. Yeah, Harley's exactly the same. And explain with your opponent how you're doing things.
Yeah, and when you're like, this unit is I'm pulling the fusion and embrace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. That's a good communication, as always in this game, is the answer. Right, let's see. Anything coming on the socials at all? Narrator Tom does not like magnets. Magnets don't like me. I never get them to work. They just fall off. Everything gets confusing.
Try it.
Havoc wants to join the
That's
anti-magnet
why I have so
party.
many
Yes!
Terminators.
Yes, an end to magnets, Havoc. Let's bring them down. Blue tack instead.
I have like 40 more Terminators than I think any mon should ever need, and it's just because I haven't magnetized anything. So I've just got lots more Terminators. I just buy more whenever I need a new weapon option.
Just a new loadout.
Excellent. Right, I think that's us. That was a slightly snappier show. We've got some time spare, so well done everybody. Thank you, Chris, for that really interesting segment on the psychology of it. I think there's some really positive lessons there. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. We massively appreciate it. It's been so much fun doing these live shows, and we will be back again next week.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff for the Lion. Thank you very much, Paul, for coming on.
I loved it. Thank you.
If you're out at London Open, come say hey, because we'll be out there doing what we can in this interesting meta, and we will hope to see you there. So be well. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace out.